Hi guys, so Low Tech Games have kindly sent over 2 new Dreamcast games for us to check out, and yeah, they're both kind of themed after parasites. So one is Tapeworm Disco Puzzle, and the one we're looking at today is Flea, and yeah, these are also out on various platforms. So they're out on the PC, like Steam or whatever. They're on the NES and on Dreamcast, and Flea as well is actually on the Evercade. So if you've got an Evercade, you can play it on there. Now, I would love to have these on the NES. To be honest, that would have been my preferred choice, but I don't currently have an NES console here in the game room, so I'll be reviewing the Dreamcast versions, which looks exactly the same. To be honest, they look exactly the same as the NES versions, so you can kind of make up your own mind from that. But yeah, Flea is a little platform game, and we've got a little NTSC North American style case here, and the print quality is pretty good. It looks like this one's a CDR, so I think the guy, there'll be a link down in the description, I think the guy sells them on Etsy, so it's kind of a little indie homemade job, but he's done a really good job of the print quality and everything, and it looks pretty decent. So yeah, let's whack it in and have a look.
Flea is one of those frustratingly challenging platform games that will have you biting down on your controller like you're having a leg sawn off without anaesthetic. And although I'm loath to compare games to other similar games, like those journalists who liken everything difficult to Dark Souls, I have seen Flea compared to Super Meat Boy, and I think that explains it fairly well. Does that genre have a name? Either way, it's a very simple platform game in terms of controls, but that doesn't make it easy. You control the main character Flea, who is, you guessed it, a flea. He's on a mission to navigate what is presumably the internal organs of some poor host body searching for blood. The only controls are the D-pad to change direction, so you have to guide Flea through the levels. He will jump endlessly without intervention. Mashing the A button causes him to do smaller jumps. And that's it, those are the only controls. Well, apparently there is a dash move added later on, but honestly I'm not sure I have the skill and patience to get that far. At the time of writing this, I'm stuck on level 33 out of a total of 80 levels, so a fair way in, but not even halfway, and blimey, it's getting tricky. When the game's running, you get a nice little image of Flea on the VMU. Levels are presented as single screens, with the aim being to collect as many blood containers as possible and reach the exit. And survive, of course, and that's where it gets difficult. Surviving isn't easy. The levels are full of hazards like spikes, pools of disgusting looking liquid, and enemies that crawl, fly or pop out of walls. One touch from any of these means death, and the margin for error can be a hair's breadth. Later on, some other elements are added to the mix, like these arrows which propel Flea in a certain direction, or these blocks that disintegrate once touched. After every 10 levels you get a boss, which is super stressful as the screen is scrolling rather than static, so you have to be really quick and precise with your jumps. It can be quite hard to see ahead too, so it'll likely take a few attempts. It serves to break up the game a bit though, which is welcome. Extra lives are given quite generously, kindly donated when you encounter these testicle looking fellows. At one point I had over 150 lives, but these will soon deplete when you encounter a particularly tricky level. For example, this level here required not 1 but 3 extremely precise jumps between 2 sets of spikes, and I lost over 90 lives before completing it. Flea's music is very 8-bit and jolly, although it might become a bit grating after prolonged periods of play. But that's perhaps unlikely to happen, as the game's difficulty will leave you wanting to have a chill out break to save your controller from being smashed to smithereens. I'm not knocking the game for its difficulty, by the way, that's really its appeal. I don't usually have the patience for these games, but found myself really loving Flea, and it certainly has that one more go factor about it. One thing I will say is that this really does feel like an NES game ported to the Dreamcast, so if you're unsure of which platform to go for, then I'd say the NES is the one. The pixel graphics and the whole feel just oozes NES. It's still fun on the Dreamcast, don't get me wrong. Games don't have to push the capabilities of a console to be worthy of playing. But £30 seems a bit steep for a Dreamcast game like this. A price point of 20 quid would have been the sweet spot, I think. The NES version is £50 or $60 for the coloured cart, and I'd pay that all day long. Sounds odd to say that as they're the same game, but I think from a collector's point of view the NES version represents better value despite costing more. Would I recommend Flea? Yes, I would. It's a really fun game that manages to maintain a good balance between frustration and enjoyment, and I've thoroughly enjoyed playing it so far. Of the two games, I do much prefer Tapeworm, so head over and check out that review as well. Thanks to Low Tech Games for sending this over. There is of course a link in the description if you want to grab yourself a copy. Thanks for watching.